Hi developers, this video is all about asynchronous code in Express.js, and in my earlier videos I have talked about performance optimization for Express applications using caching, clustering, load balancing, compression, CDN, asynchronous code, limited payload size, and in this video I will go in depth for asynchronous code in Express.js. So in Express.js, we use asynchronous code to avoid breaking the event loop while performing the time-consuming tasks like fetching data from a database or making external API calls. So it helps in maintaining the performance, ensuring that other requests are handled without waiting for the time-consuming task to complete. Okay. So what is non-blocking event loop? So the asynchronous operation means fetching data in this case does not block the event loop. While waiting for the fetch data function to complete, other HTTP requests can still be processed, improving the performance of the server. Okay, so means we do not need to wait for the function which is fetching the data, and in the meanwhile, we can go with other HTTP requests to improve the performance of the server. Okay, so by using promises with async and await, we can ensure that time-consuming tasks like data fetching do not block the server's ability to handle other requests. This results in a more efficient and responsive server. Okay, so let's discuss this with the basic code. So firstly, we will import the Express module to set up the web server. Const express require express. Now we will create an instance of Express application. Const app is equals to express. Okay. So now what we will do, we will simulate an asynchronous operation. Like asynchronous operation can be example fetching data from DB or API. Okay. So usually when we fetch data from DB or from an API, it usually takes some seconds. So we will simulate that behavior using set timeout function fetch data. It will return new promise. Is all. Okay. So now we will simulate a delay like real operations for, like in case of real operations, like when we fetch data from DB or from API, it usually takes some seconds. So now we will simulate that delay using set timeout. Function. Okay. So now set timeout. So this is the syntax. It will resolve data. So data we will receive is async data. Okay. And suppose, let's say time will be, it will take is 4 seconds. Okay. Now what we will do, we will define a get route that handles asynchronous operation. Okay. So basically we know, let's make a function first. App.get, the endpoint will be async in the path. Async. To make it asynchronous, we need to write async. Okay. So the async await syntax, it will allow us to wait for fetch data function to resolve without blocking the event loop. Okay. Now const data is equal to await. So we need to write await because we are using async here. Fetch data. Okay. So we can say that the async await syntax, it allows to wait for the fetch data function to resolve without blocking the event loop in the event loop. Okay. So this await const data is equals to await fetch data. This await ensures that we get the result of fetch data without blocking. Okay. Without blocking other operations. This await, it will ensure that we get the result of fetch data without blocking other operations. Okay. So once the data is fetched, we can send it to the client as a JSON response. How we send? res.json data. Okay. So once data is fetched, once this data is available, fetched, we can send it as JSON response to client. Okay. So now we can start the server. So how to start the server? We start the server using app.listen 3000. Okay. We can use callback to notify server is running. Server is running on port 3000. Server is running on port 3000. Okay. So what we have done, so we have imported the Express module, okay, which allows us to create a web server. Then we have created a web server, and what we have done, we have used fetch data function. This function will simulate an asynchronous operation. Similarly, like when we query it from database or fetching data from external API, it will simulate an asynchronous operation like this using set timeout. So this set timeout, it is used to create a delay. Currently it is creating a delay of 4 seconds. Okay. To make it a real asynchronous task. Okay. So this fetch data, it will return a promise that resolves within an object containing some sample data after 4 seconds. Okay. So now using this call, what we will do, we are doing. So this route handler is asynchronous as it is denoted by async keyword. Okay. So this async has made this route handler asynchronous. And here await fetch data. It is used to pause the execution until the fetch data promise resolves. Okay. So what it is doing? It is used to pause the execution until the fetch data promise resolves. And after 4 seconds, because it is taking 4 seconds, until that it will pause the execution until the fetch data promise resolves. And this is non-blocking, means the event loop is free to handle other requests while waiting for the data. Okay. Once the data is fetched, okay, it is returned as a JSON format to the client using res.json data. Okay. So once the data is fetched, we can send it as a JSON response to the client. After that, we can start the server using app.listen. Okay. So using async await, we can allow to write asynchronous code in a synchronous style. So it is easier to read and manage, especially when we deal with the input-output operations. And one more thing, it is non-blocking in nature. The asynchronous operations, in this case fetching data, it does not block the event loop. So while waiting for the fetch data function to complete, other HTTP requests can still be processed. So it improves the performance of the server. So this is all about run the code asynchronous operations. So let's run the code console. This async API is calling. So as we can see that it is called after 4 seconds. Okay. After 4 seconds, the result will be displayed as a response data, async data. Okay. As you can see here, we have mentioned 4 seconds delay. This is the 4-second delay. Okay. So this is all about asynchronous code in Express.js. And guys, you can find out the complete code for this tutorial on my GitHub repository account that I will share the link in the description, and you can feel free to check out the code from there.